Imagine this: your mind is a battlefield, and every day thousands of thoughts are marching through it, some helpful, some toxic, most unnecessary. You're standing there, frozen, watching your own mind sabotage your decisions, your confidence, your life. That constant replay of, what if, should I, maybe I shouldn't. It's not just a habit, it's a trap. Now, I want you to picture something even more shocking. You can take control. You can stop this mental chaos, and once you do, life will start moving faster, clearer, stronger than ever before. No more lying awake at 2 a.m. replaying every conversation, every choice, every tiny detail. No more what-ifs haunting you like ghosts. The question is this: are you going to stay stuck in the endless loop of doubt, or are you ready to learn the rules that will destroy overthinking forever? Because today, we're not just talking about thinking smarter, we're talking about taking your mind back, commanding your thoughts, and finally acting with confidence and clarity. By the time this message is over, overthinking won't just be a bad habit, it will be something you leave behind, something you conquer. And let me tell you, it starts with understanding the rules that your mind never wants you to know. 1 rule: take control of your mind. Don't let it control you. Your mind is a powerful tool, but it's also a dangerous weapon when left unchecked. Every thought, every doubt, every fear that creeps into your head has the power to shape your reality. And here's the hard truth. Most people are not in control of their minds. Their thoughts run wild, looping endlessly like a hamster on a wheel. They overthink, second-guess, hesitate, and watch opportunities pass by. If this sounds familiar, you need to understand something critical. Your mind does not have to run you. You can take control completely, decisively right now. It starts with awareness. You cannot fight an enemy you don't recognize. Most people live their lives on autopilot, unaware of how many of their thoughts are toxic, unnecessary, or outright destructive. You wake up, and your mind immediately begins its chatter. What if I fail today? What if I mess up that presentation? What if they judge me? And before you know it, hours have passed, and your mind has taken you on a roller coaster ride that goes nowhere. The problem isn't the thoughts themselves, it's the belief that you must follow every thought, analyze every scenario, and plan for every possibility. That's overthinking. That's mental slavery. The first step to taking control is realizing you are not your thoughts. Thoughts are just ideas, images, and impulses that your brain produces. They have no inherent power unless you give it to them. Yet so many people act as if every thought is law, as if every passing doubt must dictate their actions. Here's the truth: your mind is like a wild horse. Left to its own devices, it will run you into the ground. But when you take the reins, when you command it, you can ride it with precision, power, and purpose. So how do you actually take control? It starts with a practice I call mental interruption. When you notice that spiral of overthinking starting, you stop it cold. You literally say to yourself, stop, this is not serving me. It may feel awkward at first, almost confrontational, but here's the kicker: your mind respects authority. The more you practice commanding your thoughts, the more your mind will obey. Think of it like training a dog. You don't scold it angrily. You assert your authority with calm consistency. Every time you interrupt a negative loop, you are reclaiming power. Every time you refuse to let doubt dictate your actions, you reinforce the fact that you are in charge. Next, you have to understand the difference between thinking and overthinking. Thinking is deliberate, purposeful, and strategic. Overthinking is obsessive, paralyzing, and destructive. It doesn't lead to clarity. It leads to hesitation, stress, and self-doubt. Most people confuse the two. They think that if they analyze something enough, they will reach a perfect decision. But life doesn't work that way. There is no perfect scenario. There is no flawless path. There is only action, adjustment, and learning along the way. Mastering your mind means knowing when to think and when to stop thinking and start acting. Action is the antidote to overthinking. Another key to control is choosing your focus. Your mind is like a spotlight. It will illuminate whatever you allow it to. If you constantly feed it worries, fears, and what-ifs, that's what will dominate your reality. But if you deliberately direct your thoughts towards solutions, opportunities, and next steps, your mind becomes a tool for progress rather than a trap for doubt. This is not just motivational fluff. This is neurological truth. The more you focus on productive, actionable thoughts, the more your brain rewires itself to support action over anxiety. Over time, controlling your focus isn't just a skill, it becomes a habit. And habits define your life far more than raw talent ever will. Now let's talk about a deeper layer: self-trust. One of the main reasons people overthink is that they don't trust themselves. They question their instincts, second-guess their decisions, and endlessly seek external validation. Taking control of your mind requires building a relationship with yourself where you trust your judgment, honor your intuition, and commit to your decisions. The more you practice trusting yourself, the less your mind will feel the need to sabotage you with endless what-if scenarios. Your internal dialogue shifts from fear to confidence, from hesitation to decisiveness, and that shift alone can change your entire trajectory. Finally, taking control requires a daily commitment. It's not a one-time event. It's a continuous process of watching your thoughts, challenging them, redirecting them, and reinforcing your authority over them. Some days your mind will resist. Some days, the overthinking will try to push back with full force. That's when you dig in, double down, and assert control even harder. The more consistent you are, the faster your mind learns that it no longer has free rein. Eventually, taking control becomes automatic. You don't just react to thoughts. You choose which thoughts deserve your energy, and the rest fade into background noise. So here's the bottom line. Overthinking isn't a flaw. It's a symptom of lost control. And control isn't some mystical ability reserved for a few elite people. It's a skill you can develop starting today. Every time you interrupt a thought, focus on the actionable. Trust yourself and commit to your decisions. You are reclaiming your mind moment by moment. And once you've done that, overthinking stops. Not because life becomes simpler, but because you have learned to navigate life with clarity, purpose, and authority. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. The choice is yours. But the moment you decide to take control and never let overthinking rule you again, you step into a life of clarity, action, and unstoppable momentum. 2. Rule. Action crushes thought. Move before you overthink. Overthinking thrives in stillness. When you sit idle, your mind begins to replay every decision you've ever made, every conversation you've ever had, every scenario that could possibly go wrong. And the longer you stay in that loop, the louder it gets, the more convincing it becomes, until hesitation takes the wheel and action fades into the background. But here's the truth that most people fail to grasp: thoughts without action are meaningless. And in fact, they're dangerous. Overthinking is a thief. It steals your time, your confidence, and your momentum. The antidote is simple, brutal, and direct: move. Take action. Do something. Anything. Because movement, no matter how small, shatters the paralysis that overthinking creates. The reason action is so powerful is that it interrupts the endless cycle of doubt. Your mind loves to create hypothetical problems, to dwell on what-if scenarios, to imagine failure before it even happens. That's its default mode, hesitation masquerading as preparation. But when you act, you break that cycle. You shift from imagination to reality. You transform uncertainty into experience. And here's the kicker: your mind doesn't like that. It prefers rumination to results. It wants you stuck in analysis, because once you act, control is no longer theoretical, it's tangible. Every step you take forces your brain to deal with reality, and in that confrontation, overthinking loses its power. Now, don't misunderstand me. This isn't about reckless action. This isn't about diving into chaos blindly. It's about deliberate, purposeful movement, even in the smallest form. Action doesn't need to be monumental to be transformative. Making one phone call, sending one email, writing down one plan, or taking one small step toward your goal is enough to crack the chain of overthinking. Momentum is built incrementally, but its effect is explosive. Every tiny victory over inaction builds confidence, reinforces your authority over your mind, and diminishes the grip of doubt. You start to realize something profound: the path forward is paved by doing, not by thinking. Let's talk about timing. Overthinkers have a false belief that they must wait for the perfect moment, the ideal plan, the foolproof strategy. That moment doesn't exist. Life doesn't hand out guarantees. The world doesn't pause while you debate every possible outcome. Waiting for perfection is a trap, and it's one of the biggest obstacles to success. Action, even when imperfect, is infinitely more valuable than endless contemplation. It produces results, generates feedback, and teaches lessons that no amount of thinking ever could. In fact, the act of doing informs your thinking. You learn faster, adjust quicker, and grow stronger because you are engaged in reality rather than trapped in your own mind. The beauty of action is also psychological. Movement creates clarity. When your mind is racing with doubts and fears, taking action grounds you. It channels your energy from hypothetical problems into tangible solutions. You begin to see the possibilities instead of the pitfalls. You begin to trust yourself, because every step you take is proof that you are capable. And here's a secret: most overthinkers never learn. Confidence is not built by planning, it is built by doing. Each action is a brick in the foundation of your self-assurance. Each decision executed is a statement to your mind that you are in charge. Consider this: how many opportunities have slipped past you because you waited too long? How many doors closed because your mind was stuck in endless deliberation? Action destroys regret before it has a chance to form. Even if the outcome is not what you hoped for, the act of moving forward produces knowledge, experience, and resilience. Overthinkers often fear failure, but failure is only painful when you haven't acted. Once you take action, failure becomes a teacher, a stepping stone, a necessary part of progress. Doing is the only antidote to fear, because fear cannot survive in the presence of movement. Let me give you a practical framework that transforms this principle into habit. I call it the 5-minute rule. Whenever you catch yourself spiraling in thought, commit to doing something related to the problem within 5 minutes. Write an email, make a call, outline a plan, or take a concrete step. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to happen. That small action interrupts the loop, resets your mind, and sets momentum in motion. Over time, your brain begins to associate action with progress rather than hesitation. Movement becomes addictive. You start seeing solutions instead of problems. You start building a track record of decisiveness and accomplishment, and the overthinking that once ruled you begins to lose its grip. Another critical aspect is understanding that action is a form of courage. Every time you move despite uncertainty, you are sending a message to yourself that you will not be controlled by fear or doubt. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to act in spite of it. Overthinking is born from fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of making the wrong decision. Action crushes that fear because it transforms anxiety into experience. Every time you act, you rewrite the narrative in your mind. You are no longer a passive observer of your life. You become the architect, the decision maker, the force that drives reality rather than reacts to it. Finally, action breeds clarity. When you stop overthinking and start moving, you discover truths that thoughts alone cannot reveal. You find out what works, what doesn't, and what is truly important. You gain insight that no amount of hypothetical analysis can provide. Life rewards doers, not dreamers. And the moment you embrace action as your weapon against overthinking, you shift from paralysis to momentum, from doubt to power, from hesitation to execution. So here's the bottom line. Overthinking is a trap, but action is a hammer. Each step you take breaks the chains, silences the noise, and proves to yourself that you are in control. The world doesn't wait for perfect plans, and your mind doesn't respect indecision, but it will respect action, consistency, and courage. Move before your mind convinces you to wait. Act before fear paralyzes you. Start now and keep going, because the only way to destroy overthinking forever is to prove to yourself day after day that you are stronger than your thoughts and unstoppable when you choose to act. 3. Rule. Embrace discomfort. The mind hates uncertainty. Human beings are wired to seek comfort. It's in our DNA. Our brains are constantly scanning for safety, for stability, for predictability. That's why uncertainty feels so terrifying. That's why stepping into the unknown triggers hesitation, fear, and overthinking. When faced with a choice where the outcome is unclear, most people freeze. They weigh options endlessly, replay scenarios in their minds, and convince themselves that inaction is the safer path. But here's the brutal truth: comfort is a trap. The more you chase it, the more your mind will imprison you in doubt, indecision, and stagnation. The people who succeed, the ones who conquer overthinking and thrive under pressure, are not those who avoid discomfort. They are the ones who embrace it. Discomfort is the battlefield where growth is forged. Every moment of uncertainty, every step into the unknown, every decision made without a guarantee is an opportunity to train your mind, strengthen your resilience, and reclaim your power. Overthinking thrives in a vacuum of certainty. It survives on hesitation and fear. When you lean into discomfort, when you confront uncertainty head on, you strip overthinking of its fuel. Suddenly the mind realizes it doesn't have the power it thought it did. You discover that fear is temporary, doubt is conquerable, and hesitation is optional. Think about the moments in your life when you felt truly alive, truly tested, truly challenged. Chances are those moments were uncomfortable. Maybe it was speaking in front of a crowd, making a bold career move, standing up for yourself in a difficult situation, or leaving a relationship that no longer served you. In those moments, your mind screamed at you to retreat, to play it safe, to overanalyze and delay. But the people who succeed, the ones who make decisions that shape their lives, don't wait for comfort. They step forward anyway. Here's the thing about discomfort: it is temporary, but the lessons it teaches are permanent. Every time you face uncertainty, you teach your brain that you are capable of handling the unknown. You prove that you can survive even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. And with each encounter, overthinking loses its grip. The mind learns that it does not need to create endless what-if scenarios because you have already demonstrated your ability to adapt, adjust, and act under pressure. The very act of embracing discomfort rewires your brain to trust yourself, to value courage over hesitation, and to prioritize action over analysis. The first step in embracing discomfort is changing your mindset. Most people see uncertainty as a threat. They see the unknown as a danger zone filled with potential mistakes and regrets. But what if you flip that perspective? What if you started to view uncertainty as a playground for growth, a testing ground for strength, and a laboratory for learning? When you reframe discomfort as an opportunity rather than a threat, your relationship with overthinking changes. Your mind no longer obsesses over what could go wrong. It begins to focus on what can be learned, experienced, and gained. The uncertainty that once paralyzed you becomes the very arena where your confidence and resilience are forged. Another critical aspect is exposure. Just like your muscles need resistance to grow, your mind needs controlled doses of discomfort to build tolerance. Start small if you have to. Take on challenges that push you slightly beyond your comfort zone. Speak up when you want to stay silent. Make a decision without knowing the outcome. Try something new without planning every detail. Each small act of courage trains your mind to handle bigger challenges. Over time, what once seemed terrifying becomes manageable. And the more you practice, the less your mind will attempt to overthink, because it knows from experience that you can handle uncertainty and come out stronger. Discomfort also teaches clarity. When you step into the unknown, your priorities reveal themselves. Your fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs are exposed. And this exposure is invaluable because you cannot conquer what you do not see. Overthinking thrives in ignorance, it survives in the dark. By confronting uncertainty, you illuminate the real obstacles, the real risks, and the real opportunities. You learn to differentiate between fear that is real and fear that is manufactured by your mind. You gain insight into what truly matters and what is irrelevant noise. That clarity is a weapon against overthinking, because once you see reality clearly, your mind has no reason to invent endless hypothetical scenarios. Now, let's talk about courage and action and discomfort. Many people assume courage means being fearless. That's a lie. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the ability to act in spite of fear. Every time you embrace uncertainty, you practice this kind of courage. You prove to yourself that you are not a prisoner of your thoughts. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the one steering the ship, even when the waters are rough and unpredictable. And this is where overthinking truly dies. When you trust yourself to act despite fear, your mind realizes it no longer has to run endless simulations of disaster, because you have already shown it that you are capable of handling outcomes, good or bad. Finally, embracing discomfort is a commitment to life itself. Overthinking is often a symptom of avoiding the unknown, of hiding behind the illusion of safety. But life does not exist in comfort. Life exists in the messy, unpredictable, challenging, and exhilarating spaces where growth occurs. Every decision you make in uncertainty, every step you take in discomfort, every time you choose action over hesitation, you reinforce a profound truth: you are stronger than your fear, braver than your doubts, and smarter than your hesitation. So here's the challenge: start leaning into discomfort today. Take risks that scare you. Face uncertainty with deliberate courage. Stop waiting for a perfect scenario or a guarantee. Embrace the unknown as your proving ground. The mind hates it, yes, but you will thrive because of it. Overthinking only survives when you avoid discomfort. Conquer discomfort, and you conquer overthinking. The more you step into uncertainty, the more clarity, confidence, and resilience you gain. And one day you'll look back and realize that the unknown was never the enemy, it was the forge that made you unstoppable. 4 rule: silence the noise. Filter what you consume. Your mind is like a radio, constantly picking up signals from every direction. Some of these signals are useful, some inspiring, but most are just static, irrelevant, distracting, and destructive. Overthinking thrives in that static. Every notification, every piece of news, every opinion you didn't ask for is fuel for doubt, worry, and hesitation. Your brain is not a trash can. You cannot dump everything into it and expect clarity to emerge. If you want to destroy overthinking forever, you must learn to filter what enters your mind, to silence the noise, and to protect your mental space like a fortress. Think about your daily environment. How often do you check social media, scroll through endless feeds, or listen to opinions that don't serve you? Every time you do, you invite comparison, self-doubt, and distraction. Your mind starts to measure your life against someone else's highlight reel, and suddenly uncertainty creeps in. Am I doing enough? Should I be further ahead? Why is everyone else succeeding? These thoughts are not your own. They are planted by the constant barrage of information you consume. Overthinking is just the echo of external noise bouncing inside your head. The solution is simple but often ignored. Take control of what you allow into your mental space. Filtering the noise starts with awareness. Recognize the sources that trigger overthinking, the news that makes you anxious, The endless advice from people who don't understand your life, the social media feeds that make you feel inadequate. Ask yourself, does this information serve me? Does it help me take action, grow, or move forward? If the answer is no, it has no place in your mind. This is not about ignorance or avoidance, it's about strategy. You are not a sponge meant to absorb every detail from the world. You are a warrior tasked with protecting your focus, clarity, and energy. The next step is deliberate consumption. Choose what you expose yourself to with intention. Read, listen, and watch only what aligns with your goals, values, and growth. Surround yourself with people, content, and ideas that inspire action, provide insight, and reinforce confidence. When you fill your mind with constructive input, your thoughts become stronger, sharper, and more directed. Overthinking can't survive in an environment built for clarity, decisiveness, and purpose. By curating what you allow into your head, you starve the mind of unnecessary doubts and fears, replacing them with fuel for progress. Silencing the noise also means creating boundaries. Boundaries aren't just physical, they're mental. Turn off notifications that distract you. Limit exposure to social media. Decide when and how you consume news or advice. Protect your focus like it's the most valuable asset you have, because it is. Overthinking is often the result of too many inputs and not enough internal control. When your mind is flooded, it can't process information effectively. It spirals into endless loops, searching for meaning and certainty where there is none. By establishing boundaries, you regain control over your mental environment and create the conditions for clear, decisive thinking. But filtering external noise is only half the battle. Internal noise, your own thoughts, doubts, and self-criticism can be even more destructive. Overthinking often feeds on negative self-talk. I'm not good enough, I'm unprepared, I'll fail. These thoughts amplify every external distraction. The key is to recognize the internal chatter, challenge it, and replace it with constructive focus. Journaling, meditation, and mindfulness are powerful tools for this. They allow you to separate productive thoughts from destructive ones, giving you the space to think clearly and act decisively. Silence doesn't mean empty, it means intentional, deliberate mental clarity. Another critical aspect of silencing the noise is learning to filter advice and opinions. Everyone has an opinion, and not all of them are valuable. When faced with multiple voices, your mind can become paralyzed by the sheer volume of conflicting guidance. Overthinking thrives on this confusion. The solution is selective listening. Seek counsel from those with experience, insight, and alignment with your values. Ignore the rest. Develop the confidence to trust your own judgment. The more you filter out unnecessary advice, the less your mind spirals and the more decisively you act. Let's not forget the power of digital detox. In today's world, our minds are constantly assaulted by notifications, updates, and endless streams of information. This is a perfect breeding ground for overthinking. If you want to reclaim control, you must be willing to step back. Designate time each day to disconnect from devices. Unplug from social media and immerse yourself in real life, your thoughts, your goals, your actions. This quiet space is where clarity emerges, where decisive thinking is possible, and where overthinking finally loses its grip. Silencing the noise is also about prioritization. Your mind can only handle so much at a time. Overthinking often results from trying to juggle too many priorities, too many inputs, too many hypothetical scenarios. Learn to focus on what matters most. Identify your highest priorities and direct your mental energy there. Everything else is secondary. By consciously choosing where to focus, you reduce the mental clutter that overthinking feeds on. Finally, remember that filtering the noise is a continuous process. It is not a one-time action. It is a daily practice of awareness, selection, and boundary setting. Every day presents new distractions, new inputs, and new challenges. Your mind will always be tempted by irrelevant information, unnecessary worry, and destructive comparison. The difference between overthinkers and winners is simple. Winners protect their mental space consistently, intentionally, and relentlessly. Here's the truth. Overthinking is rarely about the problems themselves. It's about the noise surrounding them. When you silence the external and internal chaos, when you curate your inputs, set boundaries, and prioritize what matters, your mind becomes a weapon of clarity. You stop obsessing over endless what-ifs and start focusing on action, results, and progress. The moment you learn to control what you allow into your head, overthinking loses its power. The world is noisy, chaotic, and relentless, but your mind doesn't have to be. Protect it, guard it, and fill it only with what serves your purpose. Once you do, clarity becomes natural, decisions become easier, and overthinking becomes a thing of the past. 4. Rule. On your decisions, no regret, only lessons. Overthinking thrives on regret. Every what if that lingers in your mind, every choice you second guess, every path you replay endlessly, it all feeds on regret. But here's the harsh reality: regret is a choice. You can either let it control you, or you can take ownership of your decisions and turn every outcome into a lesson. The moment you understand this, you break free from the chains of overthinking. You stop replaying scenarios that will never happen and start focusing on the ones that actually matter, the ones that move you forward. Owning your decisions is not easy. It requires courage, accountability, and a commitment to act without being paralyzed by fear. But it is the single most powerful tool to destroy overthinking forever. Most people avoid owning their decisions because they are terrified of being wrong. They constantly ask themselves, what if I made the wrong choice? What if I fail? What if it all blows up in my face? And because they are so afraid of failure, they stall, they hesitate, they overanalyze. Overthinking is just a symptom of this fear. But here's the truth: no decision is perfect. No choice comes with guarantees. Life is unpredictable, messy, and often unfair. Waiting for the perfect answer is an illusion, a trap that ensures stagnation. True freedom, clarity, and confidence come from making a choice and owning it completely, regardless of the outcome. Owning your decisions starts with accepting responsibility. This means acknowledging that the path you take, the steps you act on, and the choices you make are your own. No one else controls them. No one else is accountable for the consequences. Overthinkers often blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck for their indecision. They diffuse responsibility in an attempt to protect themselves from regret. But avoiding responsibility doesn't prevent mistakes. It prolongs fear, fuels overthinking, and steals your power. When you take full ownership, even mistakes become tools for growth. You are no longer a victim of circumstances. You are the architect of your life. Next comes the mindset shift from regret to learning. Every choice, whether it results in success or failure, carries invaluable information. The outcome itself doesn't define you. Your response to it does. Overthinkers dwell on failure as proof of inadequacy. High performers see it as a lesson, a feedback loop that reveals what works, what doesn't, and what must change. By framing every decision as an opportunity to learn, you strip overthinking of its power. You stop fearing outcomes because every outcome has value. You no longer obsess over what could have been. You focus on what you can do next. In this way, ownership becomes liberation. Confidence is built through consistent ownership of decisions. Every time you make a choice and commit to it fully, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of navigating life's uncertainties. Even if the result is not ideal, the act of deciding and acting strengthens your mind, sharpens your intuition, and trains you to trust yourself. Overthinking diminishes this trust because it convinces you that you are incapable, unprepared, or unworthy of making the right call. Ownership is the antidote. It replaces doubt with authority, hesitation with decisiveness, and fear with action. Let's consider the role of decisiveness in high-pressure situations. Life does not wait while you deliberate endlessly. Opportunities vanish, moments pass, and windows close. Overthinkers are paralyzed in these moments, trapped in analysis paralysis. But those who own their decisions act. They trust themselves even with incomplete information. They understand that perfection is an illusion. Action is essential, and clarity emerges through movement. Each decision becomes a building block of momentum, each choice a declaration that you will not be held hostage by fear or doubt. Owning your decisions also involves letting go of external validation. Overthinkers constantly seek approval from others before making choices. They ask for advice, weigh opinions, and try to predict reactions. This only fuels hesitation and mental spirals. To truly own your decisions, you must develop the courage to trust your judgment, act on your values, and commit to your path regardless of what others think. When you internalize this, overthinking loses its fuel. You no longer depend on external reassurance because your authority comes from within. Accountability is another critical aspect. When you own your decisions, you hold yourself accountable for outcomes without judgment or self-punishment. You review results objectively, extract lessons, and move forward. This is radically different from overthinking, which obsesses on blame, criticism, and hypothetical alternatives. By replacing rumination with reflection, you convert energy that would have been wasted into action that creates results. Ownership transforms regret into power, hesitation into momentum, and doubt into learning. One practical technique for building this mindset is what I call the decision audit. After each choice, write down what happened, what you learned, and what you will do differently next time. This creates a feedback loop that reinforces ownership and reduces the tendency to ruminate. Over time, your mind begins to internalize that every decision is valuable. Every outcome teaches something, and overthinking is simply unnecessary noise. You are no longer trapped by what ifs because you have a system for learning and moving forward no matter what. Finally, understand that owning your decisions is about commitment. Commitment to your choices, to your life, and to your growth. It is a declaration that you will not be paralyzed by fear, doubt, or uncertainty. When you commit fully, overthinking stops. The mind has no room to spin endlessly when you are moving with purpose, learning from every step, and taking full responsibility for your life. You become unstoppable, not because every decision is perfect, but because you have the courage to act, the wisdom to learn, and the discipline to move forward regardless of obstacles. The bottom line is this: regret is optional, but ownership is powerful. Overthinking thrives on hesitation, blame, and second guessing. The antidote is decisiveness, accountability, and learning. Own your decisions fully. Trust yourself. Commit to action. Reflect without judgment. Learn relentlessly. When you do, overthinking loses its grip, clarity emerges, and your life becomes defined not by fear or doubt, but by the unstoppable momentum of a mind that is fully in control. Listen closely, because this is the moment where everything changes. Overthinking is not your fate. It is not a permanent prison. It is a habit you can break, a pattern you can shatter, a force you can conquer. You now have the tools, the mindset, and the strategy to reclaim your mind, to act with courage, to embrace uncertainty, to filter out distractions, and to own every decision you make. These 5 rules aren't just ideas, they are a roadmap to freedom, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. But here's the truth. Knowing these rules is not enough. You must live them, breathe them, and embody them every single day. The moment you hesitate, the moment you doubt, the moment you let fear control your thoughts, that is the moment overthinking sneaks back in. Action, discipline, and courage are your shields. Awareness, focus, and ownership are your weapons. When you combine them, nothing can stop you. Remember this: above all else, your mind is your battlefield, your thoughts are your soldiers, and you are the commander. Stop giving power to doubt. Stop giving energy to fear. Stop letting hesitation dictate your life. Every time you take control, every time you act despite uncertainty, every time you silence the noise, every time you learn from your choices, you are winning. You are proving day after day that you are stronger than your thoughts, braver than your fears, and more capable than you ever imagined. So stand up right now and make a decision. No more what ifs, no more paralysis, no more wasted energy on endless loops of doubt. From this moment forward, you will take control of your mind, act decisively, embrace discomfort, filter the noise, and own your decisions without regret. The power has always been within you. It's time to unleash it. Overthinking does not define you. You define you. Go forward with clarity. Go forward with courage, and go forward knowing that from this moment on, your mind is no longer your enemy. It is your most powerful ally.